So I'm just an idiotic, stupid dog, and this take is going to be very, very brief. The man likes to leave his shoes like almost like a crisscross or like in an X pattern off to the side behind his peripheral vision, so it looks as if the little girl dog is laying over there. And sometimes he glances like, is that the little girl? Oh no, that's not the little girl dog. That's my freaking sneakers. So, but he leaves them laying there because as long as it's just in his peripheral vision, he feels as though the little girl dog is just curled up taking a nap. And, he leaves his kids over there because that's like when he had a pet albino rat when he was a kid. It reminds him of the pet. He doesn't want to stare at it. He doesn't want to get a full view of his kids because he's like, oh shit, that's not the albino rat. That's my old kids. Vice versa. Yeah. In his mind, he wishes it was the albino rat, but in reality, it's the kids. But then he leaves his church shoes. So he goes to church every once in a while. He leaves his black shoes there. And he says, I thought that was my pet Samuel, the big, 12-foot long black snake I raised since he was a little tiny critter. And I've had him for 10, 12 years. He grew to be a 12-foot. I fed him a bunch of crap. I fed him some half-baked, whatever, this, that, the other thing. We fed him some raw chicken legs. We fed him, at one point we started feeding him, rats and mice and rabbits. I don't even want to talk about it. But he likes to leave his, like in a pile, his two church shoes, so he could pretend that it's Samuel, his old black snake pet. That, one day Samuel got out. It was a summer day. He crawled down the road to get warm because, reptiles, they're cold blooded, so they got to warm up before they can. So he barely made it and he said, oh God, this asphalt's so warm. He snuggled into the asphalt and they ran right over his head. They crushed him. He curled up and it was horrifying. When Samuel died, it was horrible. But what the man does, he tries to leave his sneaks like in a crisscross pattern, like an X pattern. So in his peripheral vision, he thinks it's the little girl dog, that little white papillon. And then he does some other things which equate to an albino rat with his kids. I don't know. He takes his church shoes, his black church shoes. He doesn't shine them up. He lets them get a little dull. He likes them glossy, but he lets them get a little dull. So when he puts them off in his peripheral vision to the other side, he could think it's his old pet snake Samuel, the big giant black snake that he raised from the time he was a little pup. And then Samuel got out one day. It was a tragic thing, Tragically, Samuel got clipped right in the head I always think it was a Jeep Wrangler. It was going down the road, a bunch of drunken high school kids, and they clipped him right in his head. They pretty much decapitated him. He curled up in a ball, and the man, when he was a little kid, he ran up and was like, Samuel, God bless me, Samuel. He really was distraught. And he remembers it to this day, and he likes to leave his church shoe. He likes to get his church shoes scuffed up a little dull, so they remind him in his peripheral vision, like, oh shit, is that Sam? Oh, that's not Samuel. Damn, that's my church shoes. But he thinks it, and he just stares straight ahead, and his eyes kind of dart back and forth like Al Pacino in the movie The Godfather when he was about to kill the cop and the guy who was trying to kill his dad in the Italian restaurant. You watch that. His eyes are darting, dart. Al Pacino's pretty great. 83 years old. He just had a kid. 83 years old. But back in those days, he was a young man. His dart eyes. The man, he keeps his eyes darting back and forth so he has a sense of his sneaks on one side, his other pair of sneaks on that same side, his church shoes on the other side. Peripheral vision, he never really stares at them. He never looks. He never turns. So he thinks it's a way to get community. It's a way to get camaraderie. It's a way to get, you got some friends visiting. It's some neighbors. It's some, whatever you say, it's not family, but it's like, it's some acquaintances. It's some company. It's a little bit of company. Really, his shoes that he leaves situated, I forget what you call it when you put them in certain places, certain positions, situationally. He leaves his shoes laying around, so in his peripheral vision, he's reminded of all his, pets that were his best friends, that was his company. And this way he thinks he's got some company. It's like when he lets the dryer just run and run and run, the washing machine, run and run. He thinks in the other rooms, he's got some friends. There's some people talking. It's the washer and dryer. But he feels like he's got some company. In this case, his shoes in little discreet, strategically placed piles. He leaves his shoes so he could feel like he has some of his company, his friends from his childhood. And that's a good thing. And you know what, the man? Hey, it's a success story. This is a big-time success story. Everybody should emulate this. Everybody should learn. Everybody should realize this is almost like a genius thing. This is really, this isn't pathetic. This isn't sad. This is uplifting. This is bold. This is, really great. That's what I want to say. If anything I was going to say, this is really great. And this is another Under Minute, 6 Minute podcast. Ba, ba, ba.